Greetings everyone, it's Elliot here, back for another video on YouTube talking about blind buying. Now blind buying, if you're not familiar with the term, is what us collectors refer to when we say that we buy a film on Blu-ray or DVD without having ever seen it, and often without having ever even heard much about the film at all. So why would we do this? That sounds absolutely crazy, because if we're talking about Criterion Collection releases, these cost $40. That's a lot of money to put down on a film that you've never seen before and that you know nothing about. There are multiple reasons for doing this, but in this video I'm going to run down why I personally do it and what I've learned from doing this, both the good and the bad. If you like these kind of videos, do consider subscribing, because we've got a good community going here. Lots of people are commenting down below, telling me about their favourite films. There's some great discussions to be had. So if you like this kind of stuff, do give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I'll see you in the comments. So blind buying, how did it all begin for me? Well, I'll be honest, when I started collecting Blu-rays, which is, about 6 years ago now, it was 2014 when I started. The reason I started collecting Blu-rays is not because I was a big film fan. It was actually the opposite. At the time, I wasn't really into film at all, but I kind of set myself a challenge that I would watch all of the great films that I'd heard people talking about that I had no idea about. There were films like The Godfather, Pulp Fiction, Fight Club, Goodfellas, Taxi Driver. All of these kind of films I'd never seen. Like, I was so bad. Like, before that, the only films that I would watch would be the really, really big blockbuster films. When people would say, the first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club, I had no idea what that meant. So it got to a point in my early 20s when I thought, let's set the record straight. Let's just give these films a chance and we'll see if I like them. Anyway, you can probably guess by looking at what's behind me and by the fact that I'm talking about films right now that I did like them. I liked the experience. So all of these films like Pulp Fiction and Fight Club, these were blind buys. I bought them on Blu-ray because at the time they weren't readily available on streaming and I didn't have DVDs. I knew of Blu-ray being a high quality format, and I thought if I'm going to buy the films, I'll buy them in high quality. I remember at the time of getting into Blu-rays, I would go to HMV and you could get 5 films for £30. So £6 a film. That was cheaper than a cinema ticket. Many of those blind buys turned out to be incredible, and they've led me to where I am now. So for that reason, blind buys are amazing. Nowadays, my position is quite different because I've watched lots and lots of films now. The films that I haven't seen that would be blind buys tend to be films that I haven't heard about at all. They're not mentioned in pop culture. These are the films that are very niche. They're the kind of films that are put out by Criterion or Arrow or Indicator. Indicator, the UK Blu-ray label, is a great example of this. Many of their films, and I've said this before in my Indicator sale recommendation video, many of them are blind buys, completely blind buys, because without them releasing the film on Blu-ray, I would never even have heard of the film. So I know what you're probably thinking. That's great if you like every film that you buy. But what happens if you do a blind buy and you don't like the film? Because the law of large numbers dictates that when you buy that many films, when you buy this many films, there are going to be some that you don't like. It comes down to the cost. I don't just mean monetary cost. There's also the cost of your time. When you're watching a film, you've got to take 2 hours out of your life to watch it. And if you hate the film, you think, well, that's wasted time and I've wasted money. This is terrible. So if you're going into it with that mindset, then of course blind buying can be very dangerous. If you go into a film with zero expectations, if you buy a film, so you might buy a film and it's £10, £20, whatever, and you just write off that cost. Just say, right, that cost is sunk. I've spent that money. Don't even think about the cost now. You're just thinking about, am I enjoying this experience? If you go into it with that mindset, your expectations will naturally be a lot lower. For example, I talked about Indicator films before. There's been a number of times when I've blind bought an Indicator film and the film just hasn't grabbed me. I've not really loved the film. There's been certain things I can pick out of the film that I like, but on the whole, I'm not a fan of the film. But the wealth of the special features and the presentation and the packaging and working out, where the film fits in cinema history and perhaps in a certain actor's filmography or a director's filmography, it works as a kind of educational thing, and that in turn enriches the other films by those filmmakers or the other films from maybe that certain film movement, like if it's from French New Wave or Czech New Wave or Italian neorealism. If I watch a film that maybe it doesn't grab me, but it adds to the larger discussion, then I find value from that. So again, it's kind of framing what you're expecting to get from a film. This leads into another important discussion that I love having with friends about film, and that is, what is the value of a bad film? What is the value of a film that you don't like? Most people would say that has no value, or it has negative value. It's taken something away from your life, whether it's money or time, and you gain nothing of consequence from it. Now, I disagree. I think watching films that you don't like, particularly films that challenge you and you don't like the challenge and it's just too challenging, I think they are very good films to have in your film history. When you watch a film that you don't like, that should then reinforce what you do like, because you're looking at that film and you're going, well, I didn't like this element, I didn't like that element, so I do really like those films where those elements are, the opposite, where they have those things that you really love. From a filmmaking point of view, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a screenwriter, because I'm an aspiring screenwriter, I love writing, I love the art of screenwriting as well. Watching films and reading scripts and working out why I don't like them or why I think they're done badly, that then tells me that I should not do that. If I think that's done badly, then I don't want to do that. It would be bad if I looked at something and I didn't like it and I thought, well, no, I should still do that. So it sets a compass for me. Watching films that I don't like is really important for me. I don't just watch films that I love and learn what to do. You should watch films that you don't love and you should learn what not to do. But again, that's just advice for aspiring filmmakers, but I think it can also tie into film appreciation. Another key aspect of blind buying is supporting these companies. Like, there's a reason that these shelves behind me are predominantly made up of 4 or 5 Blu-ray companies. You've got Criterion Collection, Indicator, Eureka Masters of Cinema, you've got Arrow Video and Arrow Academy, and then there's some BFI and Second Run, but beyond that there really isn't much on these shelves, beyond those labels. That's because when I go to spend money on films now, I want to support these labels that are doing what I think is the greatest work, and that is introducing me to more films. There are some films from these labels that I know are going to struggle in the market. I'm really happy that you're putting this film out because it really interests me, but you're just not going to make money on this. Whenever I see a film like that, I'm like, right, I have to buy that. I have to buy that because I want to support that behaviour. I want to support them releasing these great films, introducing me to great films. I'm going to pick off an example off the shelves here. Let's see. Okay, I've got a prime example of this. This is the Arrow Academy release of Mohsen Makhmalbaf's The Poetic Trilogy. Now, this is a trilogy of 3 Iranian films by Mohsen Makhmalbaf, not the most famous filmmaker in the world. This is not jumping out at people from a shelf. This is tremendous value because you're getting 3 films from Arrow Academy. Great special features on there as well. Films that are... It's so surprising that these are even seeing the light of day on Blu-ray. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, right, I've got to support this. Even if I don't plan to watch this for a long time, I just want to support this kind of behaviour. I know that Franz Simeone, who's like the head of Arrow, he tweeted one day that he loved doing this release, but it just didn't get enough love, so they don't know if they'll ever do things like this again. Look, it's the same reason why we love buying Criterion Collection films, because we know Criterion. We know the presentation and the care and love that goes into the releases. We feel like we can trust them with our money because we find films that we love that we would never have discovered. So that is really what the beauty of blind buying is. It's taking a chance. It's a gamble. You know, if you're a gambling person, then you know exactly what blind buying is. I totally get if people would never blind buy. If you're someone that would never blind buy, I don't hold that against you at all. You know, it makes sense to only buy films that you love and that you know you will rewatch. Wow, so I went all rambly and ranty there. I'm sorry about that. I was waxing poetic, obviously about something I'm passionate about, because why else would I do that? If you're a fellow blind buyer, do let me know in the comments below. Or if you're not, let me know why you don't blind buy, because I think it is a really interesting discussion. There's no right or wrong. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this particular subject. Right, with that, I will bid adieu, and I will see you in another video very soon talking about Blu-rays and the Criterion Collection and all of that good stuff. So until then, stay safe, stay well, and keep watching great films.